Kenya is a country in East Africa, with a population of 56,432,944 million in 2024. Kenya is the 28th most populous country in the world and 7th most populous in Africa. Kenya's capital and largest city is Nairobi. Its oldest and second largest city is the major port city of Mombasa, situated on Mombasa Island in Indian Ocean and the surrounding mainland. From 1889 to 1907, Mombasa was the capital of British East Africa Protectorate, which included most of what is now Kenya and southwestern Somalia. Other important cities are Kisumu and Nakuru. Kenya is bordered by South Sudan to the northwest, Ethiopia to the north, Somalia to the east, Uganda to the west, Tanzania to the south, and the Indian Ocean to the southeast. Kenya's geography, climate, and population vary widely, ranging from cold snow-capped mountaintops, Batian, Nelian, Point Lenana on Mount Kenya, with vast surrounding forests, wildlife and fertile agricultural regions to temperate climates in western and Rift Valley counties, and further on to dry, less fertile arid and semi-arid areas and absolute deserts, Chalbai Desert, Nyeri Desert. Kenya's earliest inhabitants were hunter-gatherers like the present-day Hadza people. According to archaeological dating of associated artifacts and skeletal material, Cushitic speakers first settled in Kenya's lowlands between 3200 and 1300 BC, known as the Lowland Savannah Pastoral Neolithic. Nilotic-speaking pastoralists, ancestral to Kenya's Nilotic speakers, began migrating from present-day South Sudan into Kenya around 500 BC. Bantu people settled at the coast and the interior between 250 BC and 500 AD. European contact began in 1500 AD with the Portuguese Empire, and colonization of Kenya began in the 19th century during the European exploration of Africa. Modern-day Kenya emerged from a protectorate established by the British Empire in 1895 and the subsequent Kenya colony, which began in 1920. Numerous disputes between the UK and the colony led to the Mau Mau Revolution, which began in 1952, and the Declaration of Independence in 1963. After independence, Kenya remained a member of Commonwealth of Nations. The current constitution was adopted in 2010 and replaced the 1963 Independence Constitution. Kenya is a presidential representative democratic republic in which elected officials represent the people and the president is the head of state and government. Kenya is a lower middle income economy. Kenya's economy is the second largest in Eastern and Central Africa after Ethiopia. Nairobi serves as major regional commercial hub. Agriculture is the largest sector. Tea and coffee are traditional cash crops, while fresh flowers are fast-growing export. The service industry is also a major economic driver, particularly tourism. Africa is Kenya's largest export market, followed by the European Union. DNA evidence found that the Swahili people were of mixed African and Asian, particularly Persian ancestry. Early Portuguese colonization. The Swahili built Mombasa into a major port city and established trade links with nearby city-states, as well as commercial centers in Persia, Arabia, and even India. By 15th century, Portuguese voyager Duarte Barbosa claimed that Mombasa is a place of great traffic and has a good harbor in which there are always moored small craft of many kinds and also great ships, both of which are bound from Sofala, and others which come from Cambay and Malindi, and others which sail to the island of Zanzibar. In 17th century, the Swahili coast was conquered and came under direct rule of Omani Arabs, who expanded the slave trade to meet the demands of plantations in Oman and Zanzibar. Throughout the centuries, Kenyan coast hosts many merchants and explorers. Among the cities that line the Kenyan coast is Malindi. It remained an important Swahili settlement since 14th century and once rivaled Mombasa for dominance in the African Great Lakes region. Malindi has traditionally been a friendly port city for foreign powers. In 1414, the Chinese trader and explorer Zheng He, representing the Ming dynasty, visited the East African coast on one of his last treasure voyages. Malindi authorities also welcomed the Portuguese explorer Vasco da Gama in 1498. During 18th and 19th century CT, the Maasai people moved into central and southern Rift Valley plains of Kenya, from a region north of Lake Turkana. Although not many, they managed to conquer a great amount of land in the plains where people did not put up much resistance. The Nondi peoples managed to oppose the Maasai while the Tavita peoples fled to the forests on the eastern edge of Mount Kilimanjaro but later were forced to leave the land due to the threat of smallpox. An outbreak of either rinderpest or pleuropneumonia greatly affected the Maasai's cattle, while an epidemic of smallpox affected the Maasai themselves. After the death of the Maasai Mbation, the chief Libon medicine man, the Maasai split into warring factions. The Maasai caused much strife in the areas they conquered. However, cooperation between Luo people, Luhia people and Gusi people is evidenced by shared vocabulary for modern implements and similar economic regimes. Although Arab traders remained in the area, trade routes were disrupted by the hostile Maasai, though there was trade in ivory between these factions. The first foreigners successfully get past the Maasai were Johann Ludwig Krapf and Johannes Rebmann, two German missionaries who established a mission in Rabai, not far from Mombasa. The pair were the first Europeans to sight Mount Kenya. The colonial history of Kenya dates from the establishment of a German Empire protectorate over the Sultan of Zanzibar's coastal possessions in 1885, followed by the arrival of the Imperial British East Africa Company in 1888. Imperial rivalry was prevented by the Heligoland-Zanzibar Treaty. Germany handed its East African coastal holdings to Britain in 1890. The transfer by Germany to Britain was followed by the building of the Uganda Railway passing through the country. During the railway construction era, a significant influx of Indian workers provided the bulk of skilled labor required for construction. They and their descendants later remained in Kenya and formed the core of several distinct Indian communities such as the Ismaili Muslim and Sikh communities. While building the railway through Tsavo, a number of the Indian railway workers and local African laborers were attacked by two lions known as the Tsavo man-eaters. During the early part of the 20th century, the interior Central Highlands were settled by British and other European farmers, who became wealthy farming coffee and tea. By the 1950s, there were 80,000 white settlers living in Kenya. Throughout World War II, Kenya was an important source of manpower and agriculture for the United Kingdom. Kenya itself was the site of fighting between Allied forces and Italian troops in 1940 to 1941, when Italian forces invaded. Weja and Malindi were bombed as well. From October 1952 to December 1959, Kenya was in a state of emergency arising from the Mau Mau rebellion against British rule. On the 12th of December 1964, the Republic of Kenya was proclaimed. Geography. At 580,367 kilometers square, Kenya is the world's 47th largest country, after Madagascar. From the coast on the Indian Ocean, the low plains rise to central highlands which are bisected by the Great Rift Vale, and fertile plateaus lie on either side, around Lake Victoria and to the east. The Kenyan highlands are one of the most successful agricultural production regions in Africa. The highlands are the site of the highest point in Kenya and the second highest peak on the continent. Mount Kenya at a height of 5,199 meters and is the site of glacier. Mount Kilimanjaro, 5,895 meters, can be seen from Kenya to the south of the Tanzanian border. Wildlife. Kenya has considerable land area devoted to wildlife habitats including the Maasai Mara, where blue wildebeest and other bovids participate in a large-scale annual migration. More than 1 million wildebeest and 200,000 zebras participate in the migration across the Mara River. The big five game animals of Africa, lion, leopard, buffalo, rhinoceros, elephant, can be found in Kenya and in the Maasai Mara. A significant population of other wild animals, reptiles, and birds can be found in the national parks and game reserves in the country. The annual animal migration occurs between June and September with millions of animals taking part, attracting valuable foreign tourism. 2 million wildebeest migrate a distance of 2,900 kilometers from the Serengeti in neighboring Tanzania to the Maasai Mara in Kenya, in a constant clockwise fashion, searching for food and water supplies. This Serengeti migration of the wildebeest is listed among the 7 natural wonders of Africa. Tourism. Tourism in Kenya is the third largest source of foreign exchange revenue following diaspora remittances and agriculture. The Kenya Tourism Board is responsible for maintaining information pertaining to tourism in Kenya. The main tourist attractions are photo safaris through the 60 national parks and game reserves. Other attractions include the wildebeest migration at the Masai Mara, which is the seventh wonder of the world. Historical mosques and colonial-era forts at Mombasa, Malindi, and Lamu. Renowned scenery such as the white-capped Mount Kenya and the Great Rift Valley. Tea plantations at Kericho. Coffee plantations at Thika. Splendid view of Mount Kilimanjaro across the border into Tanzania. The beaches along the Swahili coast in the Indian Ocean. The largest tourists number from Germany and United Kingdom are attracted to the coastal beaches and the game reserves, notably the expansive East and Tsavo West National Park, 20,808 square kilometers to the southeast. The principal cash crops are tea, horticultural produce, and coffee. Production of major food staples such as corn is subject to sharp weather fluctuations. Tea, coffee, sisal, pyrethrum, corn, and wheat are grown in the fertile highlands, one of the most successful agricultural production regions in Africa. Livestock predominates in the semi-arid savanna to the north and east. Coconuts, pineapples, cashew nuts, cotton, sugarcane, sisal, and corn are grown in the lower-lying areas. Kenya is the world's third largest exporter of cut flowers. Roughly half of Kenya's 127 flower farms are concentrated around Lake Naivasha, 90 kilometers northwest of Nairobi. To speed their export, Nairobi Airport has a terminal dedicated to the transport of flowers and vegetables. Two Trans-African automobile routes pass through Kenya, Cairo-Cape Town Highway and Lagos-Mombasa Highway. The country has extensive road network of paved and unpaved roads. Kenya's railway system links the nation's ports and major cities, connecting it with neighboring Uganda. There are 15 airports which have paved runways. Kenya's electricity supply comes from geothermal energy, hydroelectric stations at dams along the upper Tana River, as well as the Turkwal Gorge Dam in the west. A petroleum-fired plant on the coast, geothermal facilities at Olkaria near Nairobi, and electricity imported from Uganda make up the rest of the supply. Kenya had a population of approximately 56 million, with a young population of 73% under 30 because of rapid population growth from 2.9 million to 56 million inhabitants over the last century. Nairobi is home to Kibera, one of the world's largest slums. The shanty town is believed to house between 170,000 and 1 million people. The UNHCR base in Dadaab in the north houses around 500,000. English and Swahili are Kenya's official language. Most Kenyans are Christian. The culture of Kenya comprises multiple traditions. Kenya has no single prominent culture. It consists of the various cultures of the country's different communities. Notable populations include the Swahili on the coast, several other Bantu communities in the central and western regions, and Nilotic communities in the northwest. The Maasai culture is well known to tourism, despite constituting a relatively small part of Kenya's population. They are renowned for their elaborate upper body adornment and jewelry. Kenya has an extensive music, television, and theatre scene. Sports. Kenya is known chiefly for its dominance in middle distance and long distance athletics, having consistently produced Olympic and Commonwealth Games champions in various distance events. Kenya won several medals during the Beijing Olympics, 6 gold, 4 silver, and 4 bronze, making it Africa's most successful nation in the 2008 Olympics. Cuisine. Kenyans generally have 3 meals in a day: breakfast, kiamsha kinywa, lunch, chakula cha mchana, and supper, chakula cha jioni or simply chajio. In between, they have the 10 o'clock tea, chai ya saa nne, and 4 p.m. tea, chai ya saa kumi. Breakfast is usually tea or porridge with bread, chapati, mahamri, boiled sweet potatoes or yams. Githeri is a common lunchtime dish in many households. Ugali with vegetables, sour milk, meat, fish, or any other stew is eaten by much of the population for lunch or supper. Regional variations and dishes also exist. In western Kenya, among the Luo, fish is a common dish. Among the Kalenjin, who dominate much of the Rift Valley region, mursik and sour milk is a common drink. In cities such as Nairobi, there are fast food restaurants including Steers, KFC, and Subway. There are also many fish and chips shops. Cheese is becoming more popular in Kenya, with consumption increasing particularly among the middle class.